Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me.
I was carving a turkey at the head of my own damn dining table, hands greasy from 6 hours of prep, when my mother-in-law decided to hijack the night. Classic Diane. She lifted her wine like she was making a toast. "Everyone, this is Ethan. He's a good friend of Lena's from work." I didn't look up right away. Just dragged the knife across the golden skin, slow and deliberate. When I finally glanced up, I saw him, tall, younger, maybe early 30s, sharp navy blazer and one of those confident, all-teeth smiles, like he thought this was his moment. Diane leaned forward. "Ethan's got real ambition. He's scaling fast, not like some people who just fix up old houses." I didn't flinch, just passed him the bowl of stuffing and caught a flash of fabric. "That blazer? Same damn kind Diane gave me 5 years ago. Back when she still thought I'd be somebody." "Stuffing?" I asked, holding it steady. He reached for it slower than before. "Sure, thanks." Lena wasn't making eye contact. She was focused hard on slicing the ham like it held state secrets. "Ethan," I said, keeping my tone light, "what brings you to a married woman's Christmas dinner?" He froze, spoon halfway to the plate. Rachel, Lena's sister, coughed awkwardly into her napkin. Diane waved a dismissive hand, half laughing like I was being cute. Ethan stammered, "Oh, Lena invited me. I mean, we, work together. She said it'd be fine." "Sure," I said. "A lot of people say stuff's fine that ain't." Quick note. Before listening, share in the comments which city or country you're watching from. And let's continue. I poured myself another half glass of wine. Didn't look at Lena. Just sipped. And let the silence grow roots. Then I said it, calm and clear. "I've been recording conversations in this house for about 6 months now. Just in case tonight got interesting." Forks hit plates. Rachel choked on her wine. Ethan's grip tightened so hard on his fork I thought he might snap it in two. Diane's face did that tight, forced laugh again. "Oh, Kevin, don't be ridiculous." I looked right at her. "Am I?" Ethan was staring at Lena now, like he just realized he showed up to the wrong dinner. Lena finally looked up, not at me, at the ceiling, like she wished she could float through it. "Relax," I added, tossing the carving knife down onto the cutting board. "It's not live-streamed or anything." More silence. Rachel whispered something to Lena I couldn't hear. I stood up, walked over to the bar cart, poured myself a bourbon. "You know what's funny?" I said, leaning against the counter. "I almost didn't host this year. Figured someone might have other plans." Diane forced another smile. "Well, that would have been a shame." I downed half the bourbon in one go. "Depends who you ask." I turned to Ethan. "You like it here? Cozy, right?" He nodded, but it was delayed. His eyes were still on Lena, like he was waiting for a sign, a rescue, anything. Too late. I dropped my napkin on the plate, wiped my hands on it. "Anyway, make yourselves at home. You already seem comfortable enough." And then I walked out of the dining room, left the knife right there by the half-carved turkey. Let them sit with it. Let them stew in it. Because the game had already started, and I wasn't the one sweating. I was still standing by the bar cart, swirling what was left of my bourbon, when Diane came in swinging like a damn talent agent. Voice bright, fake sweet. "You know," she said, gesturing toward Ethan like she was introducing a keynote speaker. "Ethan's on track to make partner in under 5 years. His firm's expanding fast. Big vision, big goals." Ethan sat straighter, like he wanted to downplay it but couldn't help soaking up the spotlight. Lena said nothing, just folded her napkin and avoided eye contact like it was her job. Rachel snorted into her wine. "He's got the drive, the timing. 4 kids, minimum. Some people still believe in legacy." I walked back to the table and sat down slow. Took my time chewing the bite I'd grabbed from my plate. Let the pause stretch. "Four's ambitious," I said finally, still chewing. "Hope you get your prenup right, Ethan. Kids are expensive." You could have heard a pin drop. Rachel froze mid-sip. Ethan's mouth twitched, like he wanted to laugh but couldn't tell if I was kidding. I wasn't. He glanced at Lena, then over to Diane, like someone had forgotten to warn him I wasn't dead yet. Funny thing, I added, voice steady. When Lena and I got married, she insisted we keep all finances separate. Said she didn't want to be one of those women who got trapped. Her words. I shrugged, pushed my plate aside. So we signed a beautiful prenup. Ironclad. The house, my tools, the business. It all stays mine. Diane's mouth tightened, but she kept her tone chipper. That was so long ago. Things change. Sure, I said. But contracts don't. Not unless both parties renegotiate. I looked at Ethan. You like the house? Custom walnut trim, reclaimed pine flooring. Whole place has been rewired by hand. Took me 3 years. He nodded, unsure what to say. Well, technically, it's a rental. I own it. Lena pays rent. Below market rate, of course. I wouldn't want to hurt her pride. Rachel looked up, laughing like I'd just told the world's darkest joke. You charge your wife rent? I smiled. Not my idea. That was Lena's. Said it keeps me feeling independent. Got the emails to prove it. Lena finally spoke. That was a long time ago. 3 years, I said. Still counts. Ethan cleared his throat, leaned back slightly like the chair was suddenly uncomfortable. I didn't realize you two were still living together. I glanced at Lena, who suddenly found her water glass fascinating. Because someone painted a different picture? Ethan didn't answer. He didn't need to. Rachel cut in again, trying to steer it. Well, things must have gotten comfortable. Maybe too comfortable. I set my glass down harder than necessary. Comfort's earned, Rachel, not handed out like Christmas cookies. Diane stepped in fast. Kevin, this really isn't the time. I turned to her. When exactly is the time, Diane? After Ethan puts a down payment on a nursery that doesn't belong to him? She opened her mouth, then shut it. First time all night she didn't have a follow-up. I leaned back and crossed my arms. It's just wild, you know? All this talk of scaling and legacy, like I'm some footnote, like I didn't build half the stuff these people sit on. Ethan tried to say something, then thought better of it. Smart choice. Lena stood up suddenly. I need to check the rolls. Let me guess, I said. Yoga rolls? She didn't answer. Just left the room. I looked back at Ethan. You're new here, so let me help you out. Diane likes to audition men for her daughters like she's casting a damn sitcom. She doesn't care about you. She cares about the photo on the mantle. She tried to send Rachel after a cardiologist last year, but he lived in Minnesota. Apparently snow was a deal breaker. Rachel rolled her eyes, but she didn't deny it. Ethan's hand was still on his fork, but he hadn't eaten anything in at least 10 minutes. You want to build something real? I said. Start by asking what happens when the cameras are off and the house gets quiet. That's when the truth creeps in. And if you're not ready for that, well, I tapped the table once. This isn't your stage. Ethan looked right at me now. I didn't come here to... To what? I cut in. Replace me? No, he said. It's not like that. Then what's it like, Ethan? You come here dressed like a catalog cover, sit at another man's table, take compliments from his wife's mother, and act surprised when someone asks what your angle is. He opened his mouth, closed it again, still gripping that damn fork. Diane jumped in, desperate now. Ethan's a good man. He's thoughtful, dependable. Yeah, I said. Then he won't mind answering a simple question. I turned to him. You planning on moving in here? Raising those 4 kids in a house another man wired? Cooking in a kitchen you didn't pay for? Sleeping in a room Lena furnished with rent discounts? Rachel gasped. Diane whispered, Jesus Christ. Ethan looked down. I don't know what Lena told you. She didn't tell me anything, I said. I've just been watching. And with that, I picked up my glass again. Didn't drink it, just held it. Because now, the real games were starting. Diane tried to wave the whole thing off like she was still running the show. She leaned toward Ethan, voice fake light again. Well, that's fine. Ethan's investing in commercial real estate, real scale, real clients. It's not about small-time rentals. I didn't even look at her, just reached into my jacket, pulled out my phone, and started tapping through folders. Actually, Diane, I said without looking up, Lena's firm, that sleek glass office in Jersey City you love so much. I scrolled until I hit the folder I needed. Contracts, closing documents, photos, e-signature receipts. I turned the screen so Ethan could see it. I own the building, I said. Bought it 2 years ago. Quietly, under my LLC. Ethan's face went slack. Wait, you're her landlord? Technically, I said, but I'm more interested in the 27% ownership stake in the firm I hold through a silent equity agreement, structured through 2 separate investors and funneled back to me under a blind trust. Diane's jaw twitched. That's not possible. I finally looked up. That's the thing with private equity. You don't see it coming until the dividends hit. Annual disbursements show up under an anonymous partner. She just never asked where they came from. Rachel had stopped drinking. Her hand was frozen on the stem of the glass. So, Lena works for you? I laughed. 1 short breath. Number. She just owns less than she thinks. I let that land. Then added, but sure, she's free to keep Ethan on as junior counsel. Long as rent's paid, Ethan blinked. Completely frozen. I watched him do the math in his head, trying to figure out if he just walked into a firm where the husband of the woman he was circling around controls the roof over her office and 1/4 of the board votes. Diane wasn't even hiding the panic now. Her voice went flat like she was trying to regain control. That can't be true. She would have told us. I turned the screen toward her now. Scanned lease, notarized signature, transfer of funds. A whole stack of documents organized by date, labeled, time-stamped, and clear as day. She didn't know, I said. It was an outside broker. Everything went through a holding company in Delaware. I wanted it clean, professional, no emotion. I just saw an undervalued asset, underleveraged staff, and low overhead. That building's doubled in market value since I bought it. And Lena's team has stabilized it beautifully. Ethan finally spoke. But why? Why what? I asked. Why do all that and not tell her? I leaned back, calm as ever. Because I never mixed business with marriage, even when she did. Diane snapped, That's not what this is about. You're twisting things. No, Diane, I said, sliding the phone back into my pocket. You just assumed I was staying quiet because I didn't know what was going on. Truth is, I've been investing in Lena's success from a distance for 2 years, not out of sentiment, because it made sense. The firm had room to grow, strong core partners, and Lena works hard. I give her that. Rachel spoke again, voice shaky. Does she even know you own it? I looked right at her. She'll know soon. I could see the gears turning behind her eyes, not just about Lena, but about how deep my reach really went. The room had turned cold now. Not just the tone, the temperature. Even the hum of the ceiling vent felt louder. Ethan reached for his water glass like it was a lifeline. His hand shook slightly. This is a lot. I nodded. Yeah, but it's not complicated. I saw an opportunity. I invested. And now I hold leverage. That's all this is. I looked over at Lena, who'd just walked back in, trying to act like nothing had happened. She paused in the doorway, saw the looks on everyone's faces, and froze. You good? I asked her. She nodded slowly. Yeah, just, needed a minute. I gestured toward the table. We were just talking about business. Specifically, yours. Her eyes flicked to Diane, then Ethan, then back to me. What did you say? Nothing that isn't in your quarterly reports, I replied. Although it might be worth reviewing the lease agreement before next renewal. Market rates have changed. Rachel coughed into her napkin again, clearly uncomfortable. Ethan just sat there, shoulders stiff. Diane had gone full statue. Her voice was tight now. So what now? You think this makes you look like some kind of savior? No, I said. I think it makes me the only one at this table who's been honest about where he stands. I didn't manipulate anyone. I signed contracts. I invested capital. I got results. Lena took her seat slowly. You really own the building? Yep, since 2023. It's under Canopy East Holdings. You met the guy who did the walkthrough when your lease renewed? That was my inspector. Her face fell. Not angry, not surprised either. Just the look of someone realizing too many pieces were already in motion behind her back. I let the silence hang there. Nobody knew what to say anymore, not even Diane. Anyway, I said, picking up my fork again, you all were talking about scale, legacy, building something real. I stabbed a piece of turkey, slow and quiet. Just thought you should know I've been doing exactly that, without the spotlight, without the dinner speeches. Ethan rubbed his forehead. So, you're not just the guy who builds furniture? I smiled. Oh, I build plenty. But I learned early, real power comes from owning the dirt under the foundation. And with that, I took a bite. Watched Diane finally break eye contact. Watched Rachel swallow hard and look away. Ethan didn't even reach for his plate. Lena didn't speak again, but she didn't have to. The numbers had already done the talking. I set my fork down, leaned back in the chair, and looked straight at Ethan. Did Diane tell you we're divorced? He froze like I'd just pulled a gun on the table. His eyes darted toward Diane, then Lena, then back to me. She said, he started, slow, cautious, that the separation was final, that it just wasn't public yet, and that you were emotionally abusive, controlling, and infertile. I stared at him for a beat, then let out a short, dry laugh. Infertile? I repeated. Damn, that's creative. Lena stayed silent, staring at the placemat like it might rescue her if she focused hard enough. Diane clenched her wineglass like she was trying to crush it with her fingers. I didn't need a confession. Ethan just gave it to me. Nah, man, I said. I got receipts for fertility. Blood work, labs, full panels. I'm good to go. We just didn't want kids. I paused, then looked straight at Diane. Because raising one with her mother involved would have been child endangerment. Rachel let out a sharp breath, like she was about to say something, then thought better of it. Ethan blinked a few times, looking more rattled than ever. You really think that little of me? Diane snapped. No, I said. I think that honestly of you. Ethan shook his head, looking like he'd swallowed something sour. Look, I didn't know. Spare it, I cut in. Let's stop pretending you were here for a holiday dinner. You're not that dumb. He sat still for a second too long. Then his mouth opened like he might lie again, but the words never came. What did she promise you? I asked. Equity in the firm? Some handshake deal to get you in on family business? Diane started to interrupt, but I held up a hand. Not a big gesture, just a slow raise of the fingers, like a judge calling for silence in a courtroom. Ethan shifted in his seat, finally letting it out. I wasn't here for Lena, he said quietly. I came because Diane said there might be business opportunities. With the family. There it was. Bingo. I leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice steady. You came for the deal, not the girl. It's not like that, he said fast. It's exactly like that, I replied. You walked in here thinking you were closing something. Diane used Lena to bait the hook, and you took it. Didn't even check the temperature of the water. He ran a hand over his face. Yeah, I made a mistake. No, I said. You made a decision. You saw a woman married to a man you thought was checked out, maybe close to done, And you thought you could slide in and grab a piece of the table. You're not even the first guy she's dangled like this, just the one stupid enough to show up for dinner. Ethan didn't respond. He just stared at the salt shaker like it might start explaining things to him. Diane tried to recover. Ethan is a respected professional. He has every right to be here. Not at my table. He doesn't, I snapped. You lied to him, Diane. Spun some fiction about my health, our marriage, and your daughter, and he believed it because it was convenient. Because he wanted a shortcut. Ethan finally spoke again. I wasn't trying to take anything from anyone. You already did, I said. You took time. You took trust. You took up space that wasn't yours. Lena opened her mouth for the first time in what felt like forever. But all that came out was, this got out of hand. I looked at her. Just looked. Did it? I asked. Or did it go exactly the way it was supposed to, until someone said the quiet parts out loud? She didn't answer, just shut her mouth and looked away again. Ethan exhaled, long and slow. Look, I didn't come here to cause problems. You came here to position yourself, I said. Same thing. Rachel mumbled, Jesus, under her breath. I turned toward Diane again. So what was the plan? Set Ethan up with Lena, ease me out, then sell the whole family firm angle to your country club friends? She didn't answer, but her face said it all. That twitch in her jaw, that little flinch in her eye. She thought she was playing long game, thought I'd just quietly leave when the setup was done. You built this fake narrative around a failing marriage to bring in a younger guy with legal ambition, I said. You fed him lies to make him think the opening was clean, and you probably told yourself it was all for Lena's benefit. Diane stood up suddenly, voice cracking. I was trying to protect my daughter. No, I said calmly. You were trying to control her. Same thing you've always done. Except this time you played your hand in front of the wrong guy. Ethan turned to her, face pale. You lied to me. About everything. She flinched again. You wanted in. I gave you the opening. He sat back. At what cost? I raised my glass toward him. Welcome to the family. And then I drank. I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I just reached into my back pocket, pulled out a folded sheet of paper, and set it in front of me like I was reading off a grocery list. Let's talk about Tuesdays. Lena's head snapped toward me, too quick. Rachel shifted in her seat like she suddenly needed to stretch her legs. Diane's wine glass clinked as she set it down, a little too hard. I cleared my throat. You haven't touched me in 6 months, I said casually. Not even an accidental brush in the hallway. Fine, people drift. But you opened a second checking account 3 months ago. I've got the bank statements. Lena didn't blink. She just stared like she was waiting for a meteor to land and give her a way out. Browser history says you spent a whole night comparing boutique hotels around Hoboken. Your firm's card wasn't used, not once. But your mom's card? I smiled. Swipe, 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 like clockwork. Rachel coughed, but no one was pretending to make conversation anymore. Every Tuesday, same boutique spot, room 418. You're a creature of habit, Lena. I'll give you that. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Her knuckles went white around her silverware. Client meetings? I asked, staring at her like we were the only ones in the room. What? She said, blinking too fast. I tilted my head. The hotel bookings. Room 418. Every Tuesday from 3 to 7 p.m. That's a client thing? Her lips moved, but nothing coherent came out. Because your assistant says Tuesdays are your yoga days, I added, flipping another page over for the hell of it. Private vinyasa sessions, remember? Except she told me you've been skipping for months. Said you outgrew the practice. Diane shot up. This is inappropriate. I didn't even look at her. So is planning to replace your son-in-law with a junior developer during Christmas dinner. That shut her up. Ethan had already started standing. He didn't say anything, just pushed his chair back and looked toward the door like it owed him an apology. I didn't sign up for this, he muttered. I raised my glass toward him. No hard feelings, but your reputation might take a hit if you're linked to this circus. I'd walk now if I were you." He nodded once, sharp and small. "Understood." And just like that, he left. No goodbye, no excuses, not even a glance back at Lena. The door clicked shut behind him. The sound echoed more than it should have. I turned back to Lena. "Room 418 must be a hell of a workout spot." She looked at me finally. Her face was stiff, but her eyes were full of it. Shame, fear, maybe regret. But who the hell knew with her anymore? "You went through my laptop?" she said. "You left it open," I replied. "On the kitchen table. You were in the shower. I moved the charger, saw your browser open on the booking page. Figured, what the hell? Maybe you were planning a surprise spa trip for us. Turns out, the only one getting rubbed down was you." Rachel let out a soft gasp. Diane looked like she wanted to throw her wine glass at my head. I wouldn't have flinched. "You think I don't notice patterns?" I asked. "You think I didn't see the change? The different perfume? The 30-minute car rides you suddenly needed to clear your head?" Lena's voice came out small. "It wasn't like that." "Wasn't it?" I leaned forward. "Then what was it, Lena? A standing massage appointment you couldn't reschedule? A support group for women who lie in marriage and cheat in silence?" "Kevin," she started, but I cut her off. "Do you know how humiliating it is to sit in your own house every Tuesday, wondering if you're going to come home with washed hair and a stiff neck from someone else's bed? Do you know what that does to a man? A real man, who built that roof, wired the lights, sealed the floorboards with his own damn hands." Her eyes welled, but I didn't care. That part of me, the one that used to get soft when she looked like this, was gone. She'd burned it for nothing. For room 418, and someone whose name she didn't even have the decency to hide. I turned toward Diane, who had the nerve to still be upright. "This is the part where you defend her, right? Tell me it's complicated, that I've checked out, that men don't understand emotional needs." She crossed her arms. She was unhappy. "And instead of therapy, she picked hotel beds and secret cards," I said. "Real growth there. But sure, blame the guy who didn't chase her around Jersey with a dozen roses and a couples counselor." Rachel finally spoke. "You don't have to do this in front of everyone." "Sure I do," I said. "They already sat through the rest of the show. Might as well see the finale." Lena pushed her chair back slowly. "I need air." "You need truth," I shot back. "And you've been dodging it since March." She stood, her voice cracked. "This isn't fair." I nodded. "Fair would have been you saying you weren't in love anymore. Fair would have been a conversation, not a reservation." She walked out without another word. The room went dead silent except for Diane breathing like she'd just finished a sprint. "I warned her," Diane muttered finally. "No," I said, standing up, tossing the printouts down like cards on a blackjack table. "You coached her." I didn't wait for her response. I walked over to the dining room cabinet and poured myself another drink. Neat, no ice, no shaking hands. Because when the lies are digital, all you have to do is press print. I set the drink down. No more paper, no more talking. Now it was time for Exhibit A. I walked to the side cabinet, the one Diane always said was too clunky for the room, the one I built myself out of quarter-sawn oak, opened the bottom drawer, slid out a small black USB drive, and held it between my fingers for everyone to see. The label was plain, white, typed in caps. Diane Logs. The room didn't move. Even Rachel froze, mid-sentence. Lena looked like she'd stopped breathing. Ethan, already an inch from the door, turned around just enough to watch. "Figured this might happen," I said, walking toward the living room TV. I bent down, clicked the port, and plugged it in. The screen lit up. Black background. Folder name, Audio, November-December. I clicked play. No video. Just crystal clear audio, boosted, cleaned up by my cousin Matt, The same one who built the monitoring system for the family's shared iPad. The same one Diane thought was just a coder. And there it was, her voice, crisp, confident, scheming. We'll get rid of Kevin quietly. Lena deserves someone with ambition. Ethan's young, sharp, manageable. I can even shuffle firm funds to make it easier. Rachel was the first to react. She shot up like the couch had shocked her, stepping in front of the screen like her body could erase sound. This is disgusting, turn it off. But I was already clicking to the next file. A shorter one, titled, Thanksgiving, Dining Room Mic. Diane's voice again. Meaner this time. The real version. The one she reserved for closed doors and empty wine glasses. Kevin's the Meredith problem. He drags Lena down. He'll always be small scale. He doesn't scale. The room changed. Like a switch had flipped. No more polite gasps or stares at the floor. No more, we didn't know. Now it was out. Raw, public, burned into speakers loud enough to rattle the picture frames. Ethan backed away like the sound itself was toxic. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Lena buried her face in her hands, elbows on the table, shoulders tight like she was bracing for impact. Rachel stepped back, slowly, like she was seeing her mother for the first time without makeup or filters. I looked at Diane. She wasn't pretending anymore. Her mouth was open, eyes wide. Every part of her posture screamed panic. Planning to replace me at my own dinner table, I said calmly, stepping closer to the screen. Guess you thought no one was listening. She lunged, straight for the TV. Hands out, wild, desperate, like yanking that cord would undo everything. But she didn't make it. Tom's voice cut through the chaos like a gavel slamming on a bench. Sit down, Diane. The sound of it, the way he said it, froze her mid-step. Everyone turned. He wasn't loud, just solid. Like someone who'd been silent too long and finally decided it mattered. Diane stared at him, lips trembling. Tom! He grabbed her wrist before she could reach the HDMI cord. Not rough, not angry, just firm, like he was holding the last piece of order left in the room. You're destroying this family, she shrieked. Tom didn't flinch, didn't even blink. I stepped forward, calmly pulled the USB from the port, and slipped it into my pocket. No, I said. I'm just letting everyone hear the family you already built. The screen faded to black. No outro, no music, just the echo of her voice still hanging in the room, bleeding into the silence like mold under wallpaper. Nobody moved. Even Rachel sat back down like gravity had increased. Lena didn't lift her head. Not once. Tom let go of Diane's wrist. Slowly. Deliberately. She didn't say another word. Not because she was sorry. Diane didn't do sorry. But because she knew the tape couldn't be talked around. You can spin emotion. You can twist motives. But you can't undo your own voice. Ethan looked at me across the room. His mouth still hadn't moved. You're welcome to leave, I said to him. You got what you came for. He didn't answer, just gave a single nod and stepped back toward the front hallway, quiet as a ghost. No one followed him. The room wasn't a room anymore. It was a stage after the curtain falls. Actors frozen mid-scene, props out of place, script dead in the air. Diane lowered herself onto the armrest of the couch like someone whose knees were failing. Rachel turned to her, voice low and sharp. You did this. Lena still hadn't spoken. Tom walked to the edge of the living room and stood with his hands behind his back, watching, measuring, like he wasn't just seeing Diane anymore. He was replaying years of dinner parties and subtle cuts, every time he stayed quiet when he shouldn't have. I took my seat again. No more paperwork, no more receipts, just me and the fallout. I looked across the table at the woman I used to trust, then over at the woman who raised her. You wanted a legacy, I said. Well, this is it. No one answered. Because what do you say when the room hears your blueprint out loud? The silence after the recording wasn't just thick, it was final. Nothing left to spin. No more misunderstandings. Then finally Tom spoke. Enough. He didn't raise his voice, didn't move a muscle, but it cut through the air like steel on granite. Every head turned. Diane flinched like she'd been hit. Rachel dropped straight back into her chair like her spine gave out. Even Lena looked up, her expression stiff with shock, like she forgot her father had vocal cords. Tom stood still at the edge of the room, shoulders squared, face unreadable. When he spoke again, his voice was dry, clear, and measured. Not loud, precise, the way a judge reads a verdict. You lied to me, Diane. Told me tonight was about peace, about family. Said we needed to gather and put things right. He took a single step forward. Instead, you turned it into a damn ambush. Diane opened her mouth, but nothing came out. He turned toward Ethan, eyes cold but not cruel. Young man, he said, my wife used you. That was wrong. If you've got any sense left, you'll walk away from this mess with your head high. And don't look back. Ethan nodded slowly. No resistance, no defense. His hand tightened on his coat, and he lowered his gaze like a kid caught cheating on a test. Then Tom turned to Lena, and his entire face changed. He didn't soften, just narrowed his eyes like he was stripping away every layer she had left. And you? Don't think hiding behind your mother saves you. You let her run your marriage like a business deal. You let her speak for you, decide for you, lie for you. That's on you. Lena tried to speak, but it didn't come. Her lips moved once, then again. Nothing. Diane finally found her voice, and when she did, it came in sharp and loud. I was protecting us, protecting this family. Tom didn't blink. He reached into a leather portfolio he'd brought in under his arm, one I hadn't noticed until now, and pulled out a thick manila folder. He dropped it on the table. The thud made everyone jump. You call this protection? He said. He opened it with surgical calm. Inside, a stack of printed statements and color-coded tabs. He pulled one free, a bank ledger, and held it up. A Cayman account under your maiden name, transferred incrementally over 6 years, $42,000 at a time, under legal limits to avoid triggering disclosures. Total balance as of last quarter, $1.8 million. Diane's eyes went glassy. Her throat moved, but no sound followed. Tom didn't stop. Shell accounts under 6 different holding names, routed through an offshore umbrella that traces back to a corporate attorney in Miami. He glanced at the paper again. Which just happens to be the same firm your cousin works at. Rachel made a small sound, a gasp or a sob. It was hard to tell. Tom didn't look at her. He just kept reading. You drained money we built together, he said. Money I earned, money I saved, money I trusted you to manage when I took that buyout 10 years ago, while standing at this table, preaching loyalty, family, sacrifice. Diane's voice cracked. You spied on me? Tom shook his head once, slowly. No, he said. I paid attention. Something I should have done years ago. He slid the folder toward the center of the table and placed it there like evidence at trial. His hands were steady. His tone didn't change. I had the reports audited last month, quietly. I wanted to be sure before I said anything. Diane looked like she'd swallowed glass. Her mouth opened again, but still, no words. Tom stood tall, straighter than I'd seen him in years. No tension, no fear. Like a man who'd finally reached the end of the line and realized he wasn't the one on trial anymore. Maybe it's time I call a lawyer too, he said. That sentence landed harder than any recording. Harder than any public shaming. Because that was the foundation collapsing. That was the one person Diane thought would never move, never speak, never choose truth over loyalty. Her body sagged in her chair like she'd been unplugged. Her eyes darted, fast, searching for someone who'd still defend her. No one moved. Lena didn't reach for her. Rachel looked away. Even the ceiling felt too bright. Tom turned toward me. Gave me one single nod. Not approval, acknowledgement, as if to say, you're not alone in this anymore. And me? I didn't say a word. Just watched the empire Diane built on manipulation, and smoke start to crack straight down the middle. No shouting, no chaos, just facts laid bare, one paper at a time. That's what made it final. She could argue feelings all night. But paper? Numbers? Signatures? That was law. I stood. No dramatic speech. No need to drag it out. Just reached for my coat off the back of the chair and slipped it on slow, like a man packing the last bag after the storm's already passed. "Tom," I said, turning to him. "Thank you. You've always been decent. Sorry it came to this." He gave me a firm nod. "You deserved better." It landed heavier than I expected. Not because I needed the validation, but because it was the first honest sentence anyone besides me had spoken all night. I turned to walk, but Lena stood up like she'd been waiting for the cue. Her voice came soft, desperate. "Can we talk? Alone?" I stopped near the hallway, didn't look back. "You had months," I said. Not loud, not cruel, just final. "I gave you rope. You built a noose." She didn't reply. There was nothing left to add. My phone buzzed in my pocket as I reached for the door. I pulled it out and checked the screen. "Ethan, thanks for the heads up. I'm out. This family's radioactive." I smirked. At least the man could read a room, even if it took public humiliation and one recorded conspiracy to figure it out. Tom walked up behind me, not rushing, just steady like everything he did tonight. He held the door open, then paused before I stepped through. "That lake cabin in Dutchess County," he said. "The one Diane always brags about like she hosted royalty there every summer?" "Yeah," I said, narrowing my eyes. "What about it?" "I own it," he said. "Bought it before we married. Title's still in my name. She's just been squatting in the story." He reached into his wallet, pulled out a small brass key on a plain silver ring, and handed it to me. "If you need a break, key's under the flower pot." I stared at the key for a second, then slid it into my pocket. "Appreciate it. I'll be all right." His face didn't move, but something in his eyes settled. "You sure?" "Yeah," I said. "Been planning this escape for a while. All I had to do was wait for the right curtain to drop." Tom leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, more relaxed now than I'd seen him in years. "You know that bench in my study?" he asked. "The walnut one Diane's always saying looks like it came from some designer in Vermont?" I nodded. "Yeah, I know the one. I bought it from you," he said. "Back in 2019. Went through your cousin Matt's site, paid cash. Told Diane I found it at a boutique in Burlington." That stopped me for a second. "You serious?" He just shrugged. "I liked the work. Didn't need her permission." I grinned. "Solid taste, Tom." He didn't grin back, but his tone shifted just slightly. "You build things to last, even when the people around them don't." I stepped onto the porch, cold air meeting my skin like a slap I welcomed. I glanced back once. Lena still frozen in the hallway. Diane slumped in the corner like someone had cut her strings. Rachel wasn't even pretending anymore. She looked ready to bolt. "Tell Matt I'll be in touch," Tom added. "Might be time I stopped pretending all my furniture's imported." I gave him a nod. "I'll tell him." And then I walked. Down the steps, past the gravel, into the dark where the headlights of my truck waited, quiet and loyal. Behind me, the house didn't collapse. It didn't need to. It had already cracked from the inside. Everything left was just cleanup. No tears, no apologies. Just an exit that was long overdue. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the truck was dead silent. Engine ticking, headlights cutting across the snow-covered lawn like stage lights at the final curtain. I stepped out, key still in my pocket, Tom's words still parked in the back of my head. Inside, the house was just as I left it. Warm, clean, mine. The moment I set my phone on the kitchen counter, it lit up like a slot machine in overdrive. Lena, Diane, Rachel, unknown number. Blocked, blocked, blocked again. I turned on Do Not Disturb just to shut the whole mess up. This wasn't the hour for backpedaling or fake apologies. You don't get to torch a man and then ask if he felt the heat. I opened my laptop, clicked through the folder I'd been building for 6 months. Tagged, indexed, time-stamped. Recordings, receipts, title deeds, ownership transfers, everything layered in plain sight. Then I called Halpern. He picked up on the second ring. Kevin, I was wondering when you'd pull the trigger. I didn't waste time. Yeah, it's time. File on Monday. Full motion? He asked. Full motion, I said. Make it tight. Got it. Send over what you've got. I dropped a link into his inbox before we even hung up. Dropbox folder, passcode protected, all of it. From the first transfer Diane made from Tom's account to the last hotel booking Lena never meant for me to see. 5 minutes later, he texted, Got it. You weren't kidding. This is clean as hell. Damn right it was. I poured a whiskey, sat back at the counter, and watched the file upload tracker finish the last few megabytes. 1 bar at a time. Phone buzzed again. This time, it was Tom. You did what I should have done 10 years ago. I stared at the message for a second, then typed back, Still time. He didn't reply right away. Maybe he was thinking. Maybe he was packing. Or maybe he was finally seeing the woman he married for who she'd always been. I wasn't going to press him. He'd show up, or he wouldn't. Then another name popped up. Matthew. My cousin. Quiet tech guy, lives in Montclair, doesn't talk much unless he's fixing something. He was the one who helped me set up the sync tool 6 months ago. Pulled it together like it was no big deal. Just a few tweaks to the shared iPad's cloud settings and a custom dashboard. He'd said, if they're dumb enough to talk near that device, you'll hear it. Turns out, they were. Weekly. His message hit the screen. Got every word. Even the ones from back in April. Just finished the transcripts. I typed back fast. Thanks. We'll make it clean. Then paused, added, send them to Halpern, and back them up off-site. He sent a thumbs up. And just like that, I had more documentation than most courtrooms see in a month. It wasn't revenge. I wasn't interested in fire. This was cleanup. This was how you finish what someone else tried to bury. New Year's Eve, cold, quiet. No champagne, no countdown. Just the steady hum of my shop heater and the smell of fresh sawdust in the air. I was finishing the last coat on a custom walnut desk for a high-end client in Tribeca. Brass inlays, hand-shaped curves, a drawer that glided smoother than half the people I'd had dinner with last week. Divorce papers were signed, sealed, and sitting in a manila folder by the shop door, ready for Halpern first thing Monday morning. No ceremony, no drama, just done. I poured a glass of bourbon, small, neat, no garnish. Took it to the bench where the last piece was drying under a heat lamp. Next to it sat a USB. Label read, Legacy Destroyed. It wasn't for show. It held everything. Every recording, email, lease agreement, audio file, statement, the whole carcass of the lie, organized into folders like museum exhibits. I'd burned it all into one drive in case someone ever tried to rewrite the story. Right beside it, a thick folder with hand-sketched plans. First drafts of a new series I'd started designing 2 weeks back. When I knew I wasn't just walking away, I was rebuilding from scratch. The Freedom series. Not just furniture. Statement pieces. Walnut, cherry steel. Raw, deliberate. Made for men who'd walked through fire, stood up at the end and said, try me again. I wasn't making tables anymore. I was making reminders. My phone buzzed on the bench. A text from Ethan. Don't worry. Your name's clear. I withdrew my pitch from their firm. No interest in getting tied to that mess. You deserve clean air. At least he knew when to cut bait. I put the phone down, but it lit up again almost immediately. This time, Tom. Happy New Year. You're better off. I stared at the message for a second, then pocketed the phone without responding. He knew I appreciated it. No words needed. Outside, the first flakes of snow had started falling. Quiet. Steady. The kind that blankets a place without warning and makes everything feel new again. I stepped outside, still in my work apron, sleeves dusted in fine walnut powder, boots crunching into the half-frozen ground. No music, no fireworks, just breath in my lungs and no one pulling my strings anymore. I didn't look back at the house, didn't need to. I just looked forward, into the falling snow, the clean night, and the year ahead, and I smiled. Would you rebuild from scratch, or walk away from it all? Share your answer in the comments. If this story hit you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you thought. To hear what comes next, click the box on the left.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.